At T-Mobile, our critical mission is providing unparalleled 5G coverage for when connectivity is mission critical. Introducing T-Priority, America's best 5G network experience for first responders, even in times of congestion. More capacity, faster speeds, better coverage. T-Priority from T-Mobile, built for tomorrow's emergencies, ready today. Discover more at t-priority.com.
For qualifying organizations on eligible rate plans, coverage not available in some areas and may be impacted by emergencies.
Hey, Fidelity. What's it cost to invest with the Fidelity app?
Start with as little as $1 with no account fees or trade commissions on U.S. stocks and ETFs.
That's music to my ears.
I can only talk.
Investing involves risk, including risk of loss. Zero account fees apply to retail brokerage accounts only. Sell order assessment fee not included. A limited number of ETFs are subject to a transaction-based service fee of $100. See full list at fidelity.com/commissions. Fidelity Brokerage Services, LLC, member NYSE, SIPC.
Atheists, agnostics, long-haired weirdos, short-haired weirdos, vandals, hooligans.
The government, hug the government, love the government, hug the government, love the government, hug the government.
Welcome to The Politics Guys, a place for bipartisan, rational, and civil debate on American politics and policy. I'm Northern Kentucky University political scientist Michael Baranowski. I'm joined today by my conservative counterpart, Cleveland area attorney and defender of freedom, Jay Carson.
Hey, good morning, Mike.
Hey, Jay. So, as always, we have a bunch to talk about because it has been an eventful 43 days, I think. I don't know, something like that. Not that I'm keeping track, but, it's weird. At least, I don't know. It's been weird to me because while the Trump administration has given us so much to talk about, it's so difficult trying to prepare anything in advance. Of course, as listeners know, or most listeners probably know, we released this midweek show. We record it on Friday or Saturday with the weekend show. Then we release it on Tuesday. But oftentimes I feel like when we're talking about stuff the administration is doing, it could change radically in the next day or two. And so just trying to stay current with the sort of whipsawing has been difficult for me on a lot of levels. I don't know if you've been feeling that as well.
Oh, some. I'm more generally whipsawed by life in general.
So you're used to it,
Trump,
yeah.
But
got it. Okay. Well, maybe we'll start with something that won't whipsaw us a whole lot, I would hope, and that is a Supreme Court decision ruling on whatever you want to call it. That's not exactly right. On foreign aid. This is a pretty big deal, I would say. And since you are our attorney, I'll let you kind of
it's a $2 billion deal specifically. The case was Department of State versus AIDS Vaccine Advocacy Coalition, and this was a challenge to the Trump administration's impoundment of certain foreign aid dollars. The AIDS vaccine, which I don't believe there's a vaccine for AIDS, but these folks are advocating for one, I guess, went to court to demand that the federal government continue to pay money out to various foreign aid recipients, despite over Trump's objection. Went up through the process quickly and then was sent to the Supreme Court on its so-called shadow docket, which again is not terribly shadowy. It's more just the accelerated emergency docket for people seeking emergency relief, which I think is overused. This happens all too frequently now. But the court denied the appeal that would have overturned the injunction requiring the money to keep flowing. But Justice Alito, with whom Justice Thomas, Justice Gorsuch, Justice Kavanaugh joined, dissented, and the first sentence or two is worthwhile. They frame the question as: does a single district court judge who likely lacks jurisdiction have the unchecked power to compel the government of the United States to pay out, and probably lose forever, $2 billion taxpayer dollars? The answer to that question should be an emphatic no. But a majority of this court apparently thinks otherwise. I am stunned, Justice Alito. I'm stunned and a little disappointed too, Justice Alito. But I think what happens here, right? I think this comes down less about foreign aid policy and more just about appealability of TROs and those sort of arcane court things. Obviously, when a court denies a motion for rehearing, they typically don't issue an opinion. It's just no thanks, we're not hearing it. And even in most of those cases, dissents are sort of unusual. So this makes it, when you have a 5-4 dissent, that is a little out of the ordinary. But so there's no telling exactly what the majority's thinking was. If I'm guessing, and I'm probably a pretty good guesser on this, I think they probably looked at this and said, no, this is a TRO. This isn't immediately appealable. It's not a preliminary injunction. This is something that is one of the tests when you're looking at injunctive relief is whether there is, irreparable harm. Can the money be gotten back? That sort of thing. If it's money, typically there isn't irreparable harm. And I'm supposing that the majority viewed this as this is just a typical interlocutory order that a court can put on for the prevention of irreparable harm, and there's no reason to overturn it. And I think they probably get it wrong for the reasons the dissenters state, going to one, the jurisdictional issues and the what is essentially an injunction for the government to pay money, which is a little problematic, and the sort of the converse irreparable harm that the United States taxpayers might incur, just because once this money's gone, it's not as if it can just be gotten back easily. So that's my 50-foot view on, again, what is necessarily sort of a sparse record.
I guess so. One way to look at it is this just incredible, incomprehensible demand by a district judge that the United States pay out $2 billion. And that's just stunning. Another way to look at it is, and this is an important kind of facts of the case thing, this $2 billion is for work that was already completed before the pause on foreign aid disbursement. So another way of looking at this is saying, like, well, as many of us know, Donald Trump has a long history of stiffing contractors. And it seems like this is another example. So this isn't about like canceling contracts going forward. This is saying we're not going to pay you based on our contractual obligation that we enter into to pay you on this thing. And so to me, that's a very different sort of thing. You could actually argue the irreparable harm the other way, saying that these organizations, okay, then I'll just move on, I guess. Will you allow me to make the argument?
No, and so let me explain why. The difference is if you go into court and you say, hey, somebody breached this contract with me, Trump Industries or the Trump organization owes me whatever $1 million. I built this hotel for them. They stiffed me. And you say, I want a TRO saying I get my money right away because I really need it. The court will absolutely, in every instance, ever say, no, you don't get a TRO or preliminary injunction for that. You're just asking to be paid money. And the way it works in breach of contract cases is that's not irreparable harm. So look, it's an inconvenience for you, but we'll go through your case. And if you win, you'll get your money then. That's the way it would typically work. And that's why, to me, this is sort of an outlier where it's an injunction to pay money. And then the district courts have doubled down after giving the injunction and said, and I want you to pay it right away.
Yeah. And then that's,
that it was the fact that it was already earned. I think, well, all right, you've got an argument there. And again, it's sort of a breach of contract type argument.
That's one way to look at it. Absolutely. And I understand and appreciate that argument. Another way, and if one follows that logic, and certainly Justice Alito and the other three dissenters do, they would say, well, listen, what the plaintiff should have done is they should have filed suit in the Court of Federal Claims for breach of contract. And that would have been the appropriate remedy. That's one reasonable argument. But I would say another reasonable argument that I think that at least some of the majority would buy into is that, no, this is actually, they're not asking for monetary damages, not really. They're asking that the law be followed. Now, that may result in monetary, and this gets into the whole argument about that, and this can get really technical. We'll try not to get too technical, but Alito believes that the court misinterprets Bowen versus Massachusetts, and about the nature of claims, whether it's for specific relief or monetary damages. Again, we can get really into weeds. That's a reasonable debate to have, but I think it's also reasonable to say that the plaintiffs are just asking that the law be followed. Now, if following the law as a consequence means that they are paid, well, that's a secondary effect, but they're not asking for that primarily. And so they can file claim in a standard federal district court as opposed to the Court of Federal Claims under that sort of logic.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. I don't know if you knew this, but anyone can get the same premium wireless for $15 a month plan that I've been enjoying. It's not just for celebrities. So do like I did and have one of your assistant's assistants switch you to Mint Mobile today. I'm told it's super easy to do at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
Take me out to the ball game. What are you doing? Did you know DirecTV has the most MLB games? So you're singing. Yeah, they put your favorite teams front and center right when you turn it on. Buy me some cold cuts and flapjacks. Those aren't even the words. I'm allergic to peanuts.
Stream DirecTV, home of the most MLB games. Visit DirecTV.com. Claim based on total games offered on national and regional sports networks. RSNs available with choice package or higher. Availability of RSNs varies by zip code and package.
Yeah. No, and I would agree that they may have a standard claim in regular federal district court as opposed to the Court of Claims. But whether they're entitled to that preliminary remedy.
And that certainly... Justice Alito makes an argument that the district court basically was issuing, in effect, what was a preliminary injunction, calling it a TRO so that it would not be appealable. And, and I actually have some sympathy, at least in part, for one part of Alito's argument, and that's where he says this timeline for the government to pay was ridiculously short and kind of put them in a no-win situation. And, it sounds to me actually like not only Justice Alito is kind of, and the 4 dissenters are with that, but I bet you, I'm bring in Sarah Palin's go, you betcha. Anyway, Johnson Maverick. But this idea that the district court overreached in some ways. And in fact, I believe that in the order, the very brief order, the district court was told to listen, you need to be a little more specific exactly about what you want and how you want it and so forth. And so this is not a ruling on the merits. And I would not be surprised at all if when we actually get to a ruling on the merits, a majority goes the other way on this.
But that's the problem, though. Doesn't this effectually decide the case on the merits?
I don't see how it does. I see what you're saying because they're ordered. Right, they're being ordered to pay, but it seems to me like no money is actually going to be dispersed because we haven't gotten to that. I mean, the point at which in the initial TRO and initial district court's ruling that the government was supposed to have paid by is already passed, I believe. I think it was like February 26th or something like that. And I think there's a hearing scheduled for early March kind of moving forward on this. And so it's not like any money's going to be dispersed anytime soon. And I guess
I read it as that's what the court's order says is you have to disperse this money right now.
Right. And they passed a deadline. And so the money wasn't dispersed. And so, I mean, in fact.
And now it's gone up to the Supreme Court. Supreme Court denied it. So, well, here we are. Disperse the money.
But even if the district court says disperse the money, that disbursement can be challenged on appeal.
I don't think so. I think that's exactly where our problem is, right?
Well, I don't think so because
it was done by a TRO.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Except that the Supreme Court said in its order to the district court that you need to take another look at this and be more specific about what you're asking and how you're expecting this to happen. And so, I mean, that's something that that district court has to do now, that judge, and I forget the judge's name at this point.
Yeah. But to my point is usually, and this is once the money changes hands, case is over.
Right. And that's why
that's the reasoning why I think that the minority gets it right here. And again, this isn't so much a question of Trump foreign aid type stuff, even though it's kind of being played by that. To me, it's more about TROs and preliminary injunctions and what relief you can get under which.
We hope you enjoyed this preview of our supporters exclusive midweek show. If you'd like to hear the rest of the episode, we hope you'll consider becoming a supporter. Supporters get ad-free access to all of our shows, membership in our Politics Guys Discord group where you can join in on the conversation, and other benefits at different levels of support. To become a supporter, go to patreon.com/politicsguys. You can also support us through Venmo or @politicsguys or through PayPal. You'll find all of our support links in the show notes as well as at politicsguys.com/support. And if you'd like to get the midweek show, but you're not in a position to become a financial supporter, that's not a problem. Just send me an email at mike@politicsguys.com, and I'll be happy to get that set up for you.
This podcast is part of the Democracy Group,